What's going on, everybody, and welcome to Live in the Tank with Keith, Deyo, and Aaron Hairston. I'm fired up, I'm ready to rock and roll, and I hope that you are too. Today we're talking about courage, and I tell you guys, there's not a better word in the world, in the dictionary, that I truly believe is more powerful than courage. Because a lot of times, we don't even check that word. We don't even know what that word means, right? I mean, think about courage. Courage means going outside your comfort zone, or courage means doing and trying something new. Courage is having the ability or even the willingness to go ahead and take a risk, right? Let's talk about that. So Christine, what's going on, girl? Good to see you on here. Let's go. Got my G-Men on. We about to rock and roll this year. I'm so excited about the G-Men. I tell you, I love seeing those rookies out there earning their spot, working hard. And it's just like everything else we do in life, man. We put that hard work in, we're going to get our return on investment. What's going on, Will? What's going on, Eddie? How we doing, guys? Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So yeah, we're talking about courage. And I want to ask you a question. What does courage mean to you? What does courage mean to you? And as I give you some time to think about that, what's up, Eddie? For me, courage is really like that heart of a lion. When I hear courage, I think of Wizard of Oz. I think about the lion, right? And wanting to have more courage, wanting to have that fight, wanting to feel that desire, right? That nothing's going to stop him. Right? Having that ability to say, you know what? I can, I will, I must, like Eric Thomas talks about. And so courage, that's what it means to me. So for all of you out there, what does courage mean for you? Just go ahead, throw a word in there, a phrase in there, maybe a scenario or an example. What does courage mean? Because I tell you right now, when we can harness that feeling and we know what that word means in our lives, it makes a big difference. What's going on, Erica? How we doing? Good to see you. B.O., what up, man? What's up, Bobby? How we doing, man? So we're talking about courage. And I'm waiting for Keith to get on here. I know Keith said that he's going to be running a little late. So I said I'll go ahead and launch this. And so I'm still waiting, guys. Let's go. What's courage mean to you? Give me a word. Give me a phrase. Courage. When you think of the word courage, what does it mean to you? Come on, don't be scared. Courage means stepping out of her own zone. Awesome. Yep, getting out of her own way. You just stole my idea about the lion and Wizard of Oz. I think everybody feels that way. Absolutely. Eddie, not being afraid of failure. Awesome. Awesome. What's going on, Ann? Brandy in the building. What's up? So, Ann, we're talking about courage. What does courage mean to you? Right? And we're throwing some ideas out there. Good. Awesome, Erica. Awesome. Come on. I know there's more people on here. Courage. What does courage mean to you? Ann, what does courage mean to you? What does that word mean? What comes to your mind when you start thinking about courage? As Christine and I said, it's all about that lion in the Wizard of Oz, seeking his courage and how to find that courage within. Come on now. Who else we got out there? And as we think about courage, who has the most courage in your circle? Okay? Who are you modeling after? Because that's a really big part of our life. Is who we're modeling, right? Who's in our circle? Who's influencing us? And who has that courage? All right. So as we start thinking of examples about what courage means to us, also I want you to think about who in your circle, who in your surroundings, in your environment, in your network has the most courage. And why do you feel they have the most courage? Was it something they did, something they overcame, right? Is it the way they lived their life? Courage is getting out of your comfort zone. Absolutely. Great one, Christine. Right? Think about those people in your network. Think about those people that have the most courage. And think about what they needed to believe, or what do they continue to believe as they go ahead and act upon that courage. Because this is a big one. I have a lot of people in my circle that have amazing courage, right? I was talking to a young man yesterday, and he was telling me, my gosh, a story that was built on nothing but courage, because the willingness to continue to push forward is just incredible. Awesome. Oh, Christine, I appreciate you. Ann says, courage is being open and willing to do the things that push us and grow us. It's getting uncomfortable and doing it anyways. Absolutely. I mean, think about that lion, right? As the Wizard of Oz was really hot at the time. Think about that feeling that he had when something came of fear in his life, right? And all of a sudden he's like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do that. Right? And, think about that feeling, the anxiety that comes along that, and feeling that, you're defeated before you even tried it, right? In your mind, you've already defeated yourself and whether or not you can overcome that challenge. Christine talks about courage for her was staying with people she didn't know throughout our event out in Nashville. Absolutely. A celebration. You know, staying around those people and kind of having that courage to learn, to listen, right? To be present. Lisa, what's going on, girl? What's courage mean to you? Michelle. Yes, Christine. Yes, Christy. Yes, Michelle. What does courage mean to you, Michelle? And this is a big one because I tell you guys, there's so many times, I mean, even as a parent, you know, we're always encouraging and empower our kids to stand up for themselves in any situation, whether it be in school, whether it be in a sport, whether it be doing something new, right? And not having the belief in themselves, and just saying, you know what, have some courage, or talking to or a prep talk to a sports team and saying, come on guys, have some courage, right? Have some courage. What's going on, Keith? I'm gonna bring you on here, brother. Yes, living days without fear. And you know, I tell you, fear is important because if you don't have fear, you're probably most likely never going to experience courage, right? So using fear and understanding how fear can be a fuel system, right? Because it's just your disbelief. That's all it is, right? That's all fear is disbelief. And so if you don't have fear and you don't have disbelief, or at least that feeling of that, how will you ever know courage? You will never know courage. Courage will never be born, right? So just leverage, and we love that word, right? Keep
Oh
leverage
yeah.
your ability to handle that thing called fear and using it to spring forward, right? Bring you into that place of courage to see and test how well you're doing utilizing what you've been given, right? That will to survive, that drive, that courage that we talk about. And so, Keith, for you, man, what does courage mean to you?
Courage for me is looking something dead in the eye and saying, I may not have ever done this. I may not know the exact outcome. There may be a 0 ounces of certainty involved, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm dedicated and determined no matter what. And when
Mm,
you can get into that no matter what type lifestyle and get out of it depends. I mean, think about what depends are for anyway. We talk about that, right? You don't want to be in depends. So get
right,
that out of your life. Start living
right.
that no matter what. And I think that's really what courage ends up being. And it's a little bit different for a lot of people. We want to make sure that we understand that a lot of times it's a necessary ingredient, and it looks like some people are using courage or leveraging courage in order to get through things, but when in actuality it's simply confidence. It's simply a knowing that whatever it is that they're facing that you may see as fear, they
Mm-hmm.
may see as opportunity. And
Mm,
so we want to make sure that we're not mistaking somebody for being courageous when it's something that they have a lot of reps in doing. And so if you don't feel like you don't have the necessary courage to get up and do something, but you see somebody else doing it and you're like, wow, that's something that I could never do. That's so courageous of you. And it may not even be that may not even be what you're seeing. So if it comes down
right.
to it only being confidence or seeing it as opportunity, what if you switched your perception up, and then you wouldn't need to lean on courage or something that's not as
Mm,
familiar as you as a driver, and you could take
mm,
it and go, oh, I can be confident, oh, I can see that as an opportunity, oh, now let me move forward and get it done anyway. And so we sometimes will overuse that word or misinterpret the word based on our
mm,
perception or what we compare to ourselves to other people, and when they're doing or what they're doing or how big a feat it is, when it simply is all they did was switch their perception. So if it's something that you're looking for or you're seeking, remember it's already inside of you. It was the lion that was looking for courage in the Wizard of Oz,
right.
right? And all he realized was he's never alone, and the very thing that he thought was so fearful was only a perception. It was only that expectation appearing real, and not exactly what it was or what it would ever be. And he simply stepped in. He leaned into it, his chest up, his eyes forward, and
That's
made
it.
sure that he didn't stop. And that's really
Right.
what it comes down to, is not stopping, being in the no matter what place in your life, and saying, I'm moving forward no matter what it looks like, no matter what other people think or say, no matter how I feel, because I know that that's not necessarily a good representation of what's actually going on. And I'm gonna go through this. And when I come out
Yeah.
the other end, no matter how I come out the other end, I've grown. And you know that the
Yeah.
equation's always going to end with growth. And that's really what it comes down to.
Wow, I love that. And so changing gears a little bit, and you brought up a good point about momentum, right? Not stopping and realizing you're creating something. And so the first thing that came to my mind, Keith, was when you're in a pool, like a little small private pool, and you start running around the outside, right? You start running around the outside. Initially, it's borderline exhaustion, right? Because
Yeah.
you're running and you feel like you're going against, kind of the still water, right? And you just keep going. And after a few times around, right, what starts to happen, right? The water starts to conform, right? The environment around you starts to conform. And it starts to say, okay, you're going to be moving in this direction, regardless if I want to stay still or not, right? So I must give in. I must give in. So all of a sudden, the water starts moving, starts moving, starts moving. And then what starts happening, right? What do you start feeling? You start feeling a little bit of assistance. You're like, oh, right now the water is starting to push you in that direction that you were just running in. So now your effort actually becomes less and the momentum starts pushing you through, pushing you through, pushing you through. And now for anyone that actually jumps into that pool with you, right, they're going to get pulled by that current. They're going to get pulled by that effort that you started, right, by yourself. And they're going to get sucked in. Now what happens is now they get sucked into that, right? And that environment starts pushing them, right? And they can stay in the pool. And what ends up happening now, they start giving some effort. Now the water is being pushed even more. So now that effect is creating more momentum, right? Now, as you're going, right, you start to question whether or not you can continue to go, right? Because at that point, right, there starts to see some distractions. I'm thirsty. I'm hungry. I want to get out the pool. I'm bored. I don't feel like doing this anymore. What am I doing? Why am I doing this, right? And you start to forget about the effort that you initially started to get that thing moving, right? And at this point, you got a few friends involved, right? So you're looking back and you're like, well, I can't stop because, one, they're going to run into me if I stop, right? So now I don't want to be the reason why they stop. I don't want to be the cause of the momentum stopping, right? So now it almost becomes obligation. Now, I look at obligation as a duty, right? It's a mission, and a lot of times we forget that we've been born to bring something to this earth, right? We think that we actually are doing when we're actually being done, right? It's already over, right? We've already created this movement and it's already been in our lives for a reason. So that momentum is going. And so although you may look at your situation and say, well, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I don't know if I want to, jump out of this pool and stop this because I don't want to crush somebody else's goals and somebody else's dreams. But I want you to think for a second. What would happen, right? Now, if we take that analogy, and what would happen if you were still in the pool by yourself? Nobody decided to jump in the pool with you, right? And you just kept going, right? And now you're bored and you want some friends and you want some change. Now, all of a sudden, go ahead and go the other way, right? Turn around and try to just plant your foot in the ground and go the other way. What's going to happen, right? The water's going to start pushing towards you. You're going to feel that resistance, right? You're going to feel that pressure. And then you're going to start questioning yourself, why did I do this when I was doing something so easy before, right? So now you just changed the paradigm, right? You started to say, okay, I got bored with that. I changed something, but now the resistance of change is so powerful. I'm questioning why I wanted to change in the first place, right? But watch what happens. If you have the courage, okay, and you have the determination to get out of your certain situation that at one point is right now feeling so easy, but yet you're unhappy. Decide to change your direction, right? Have that belief in yourself that you can change and shift anything you have going on in your life. And trust me and Keith, we get challenged all the time. We get challenged
Right
all
now.
the time. Sometimes, the ripples and waves come out of nowhere. We didn't even decide, right?
Nope.
We didn't even decide to go against the current, but yet the current showed up. And now we have to have the courage and belief in ourselves to know that the reason why this is happening is for a bigger change. It's for a bigger movement, right? And watch what happens in the pool as you start pushing. I can guarantee you about 1 to 2 laps going against the current, the water will conform, right? The environment will start to conform. And all of a sudden you start to create that momentum going in the other direction now. And that push behind your back starts to come like wind beneath your wings, you start flying. And, using these analogies and you start to think about, something you can tangibly feel. That's what life sometimes hides in the background. And there's always a tug of war going on, and for those who understand the spiritual side, there's a tug of war going on, and both entities don't sleep. They don't take time off. right? And we can pull and choose which one, pick and choose which one is going to drive us forward. And depending on, where on the spectrum we actually lie, whether it's intrinsic, extrinsic, whether it's driven towards, what others say, or driven to what we feel inside, whether, we can visualize and be a visionary and empower ourselves, or we must be pushed by others, there's always a better level for you. However, if you're willing to put in the work and have that courage and use the fear of change and what is not so familiar to your benefit, it's going to encourage others to be able to actually have that shift of thought to say, you know what, just because I feel this way doesn't mean that I have to act this way. If I don't like the way I feel, I got to change the way I think. I got to change the way I perceive things. I got to change the way I see things. And all of a sudden, the feelings change. Sometimes we don't want to change those feelings because we actually like being pissed off. We like being upset. Even though we complain about it, right? Because the pressure of actually going in another direction or even changing that thought process and that fight in your mind and that struggle spiritually, the good and evil that's always trying to pull you in one direction or the other, it's all based on your choice. And I like to sum it up with that. Your choice of whether or not you're going to be full of courage going into and be courageous and saying, you know what, I'm willing to decide and define my future in the way that I want it to look and actually influence others. That's all it's about, is making that choice. And so, Keith, man, I want you to elaborate a little more on your shift, man, because again, I'm inspired by you every day. I look at you and Quinny and you and the family and, you guys doing what you're doing. And it's inspiring to me because, again, you're one of the biggest reasons why I decided to go against the grain, right? You're one of the biggest reasons why, I get to be with these guys all day long, right? And that comes with its own current, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
its own challenges. And I'm ready for them to go back to school in a few days.
Yeah.
I'm ready for that current to change. But you know what? Elaborate for us a little more on, your shift and your change and what built your courage moving forward so that, people can get a different perspective.
Well, it had to start. I used to depend on the belief that others had in me. And so I was constantly seeking significance. My ego was constantly seeking others that believed in me in order for me to believe in myself. And what happened was it was always short term. Even if I landed in an environment that I had a lot of people that believed in me, even more dependent on me. I think
Right.
that's a big thing for you too,
That's a
is
big one. Yeah.
instead of us stepping up no matter what, we were in a place where, oh, it depends who needs me. It depends how big the task is. It depends how much pressure there is. It'll all depend on that, and that will all determine the version of me you get to see, or the
Mm-hmm.
version of me that shows up. Instead of knowing that I have an A game to play, I'm going to show up with this A game no matter what, and that's the version you're going to see of me every single time, no matter who the opponent is, no matter how much pressure there is, no matter what time, how much time we have available. And the difference is you go from a life that you were used to pushing things and you were used to things being hard, and you said life is hard. And you get people that talk about that all the time and say, oh, well, life is hard. And
Mm-hmm.
so you end up, if you look at that analogy and you look at the amount of energy it took to start something, a lot of people stop doing great things because it's not hard anymore. They stop doing
Mm-hmm.
great things because there's the perception of how much energy that it requires isn't enough, and so they feel like they're not valued, or it must not be valuable because it's not hard, or
Mm-hmm.
this must not be valuable. Here's a good one, because it doesn't cost enough. There's not enough
Mm.
money involved. There's not
Not a big
that
investment. Right.
that investment isn't big enough for it to matter. Well, no, because if we did this the right way, and investment's all relative, for someone to say it's expensive or I don't have time, the best question you can ask them is compared to what? Because we
Mm-hmm.
don't know what's relative. We don't know what their perception or current experience may be in whatever it is we're talking about. So we need to know. We need to gain some perspective, and we can only do that by asking compared to what. And so for Aaron to stand in a pool of water and make that and create that whirlpool, as opposed to somebody like Christine standing in that same body of water, her head may be only about this far up above the waves, and now she's
Right.
trying to push her. She's trying to push against her entire body weight, where Aaron's got water at chest deep or hip
Mm-hmm.
deep. And so the difference is, as you start to go around and as that water starts to change, as you impact your environment, what you can look at it is it starts with a push. But when you get
Mm-hmm.
good enough at it, it's going to become a pull. And the push comes from you. The pull comes from the universe. And that's what we're looking for here. We're looking to be pulled. We're looking to be driven. And so all that you need to do to see that is to change the angle. Aaron talks about this all the time. He says, look, life can be a grinding stone. You can either let it dull you out or you can simply sharpen the sword. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
people that let it grind them out that then end up getting that don't go the furthest, or wherever they do succeed, it ends up being short term. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
those that know to simply adjust the sails or shift the angle get sharper, they get better, they go further. It's more long term. And that's what we want to look for in life. Is this something that I could see myself doing efficiently, getting better and better and better at it every day, to the point where it's second nature, it's going to occur in my subconscious, and it's not going to take the effort that it once did. If you can find
Mm-hmm.
more and more opportunities in your life like that, and that don't and not I'm not saying work hard for a couple hours and then don't work hard anymore. I'm saying something that requires you to have your A game no matter what, but the effort that you put in is in one direction, is really really hard at first, but then allows you to do even more when that resistance starts to pull up. When you start to feel the pull instead of you having to constantly push, what's going to happen is it's not you're not going to be looking for distractions. You're going to be looking to bring your A game, and then you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
looking for other things you can do because of that. That's what happens. That's that analogy Aaron's explaining. Is that's what we're going to be a part of. And your identity doesn't have to be one of I have to work hard, I have to push, I have to grind, I have to hustle. This has to be really hard and exhausting, otherwise it's not worth it, or this has to be expensive, otherwise it's not worth it. What is worth it is you and your A game, and you finding opportunities that allow you to do even more with your effort. Even if it takes a lot more effort at first, it allows you to do even more once that thing started. And it allows you to show up, and it demands you show up with your A game. It doesn't, it's not a situation where you push hard now and then you just get off and you say, hey, I'm just gonna hang out. That's not what you're looking for.
Right.
That's not a situation where
Right.
you're gonna be brought into opportunities to grow. It's a situation and an environment that demands your A game, that at first may be a little bit harder. You may be pushing, but then allows you to realize that this thing, if I adjust my sails just right, or if I change the angle of my sword just right, I can be getting sharper every single day while I give even more to other people in other ways. And it allows me to use other things than just my muscle or my mind or my might or my courage. It allows me to grow in other areas, because those areas aren't being tapped into doesn't mean you stop growing. That's what we're
That's
a
right.
part of here.
Yeah. And I love that. And I love that. And so if you're the type of person right now that you feel that has hurt a lot, but really hasn't made a move, right? Hasn't busted a move yet, and say, hey, bust a move. Like, get out there, talk to somebody and make things happen. I want to encourage you to have the courage, right? Encourage, right? We're going to give you the permission, right? We're going to
Mm-hmm.
give it to you. We're going to give you the permission. We're going to give you the belief. We're going to say that we believe that you're capable of doing it, because you know what? We've experienced it. We know what it feels like to be put in a situation where you have to make a decision, and it's really unfamiliar. It's not comfortable at all. However, when you start pushing against that current and that resistance, and you start to create your own way, we know what ends up happening, right? The water starts to move with you and for you, and all of a sudden your boat, your vehicle, your life starts to change into the direction that you know, right, that you're going to need to follow, so that you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, however you want to frame it, right? But it ultimately wants to lead to happiness and joy. And I'm going
Yep.
to leave with this, Keith, because this is something that I had a conversation with a really good friend the other day. And they're kind of stuck in this rut, right? Because they're not happy, but yet they have a good lifestyle around them, right? How many of you guys know people like that, that won't talk about being how they feel, but actually being successful on the outside, having all the things that they've worked for because they've been doing it for so long, right? And anything that compounds is going to compound into something as a result, right? And so they've let go of all their passion, they've let go of all their joy and happiness, and let the external example of what success looks like define them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we were having a conversation, and I asked that individual, I said, when was the last time you actually were truly happy? And they said they have no idea.
Damn.
So here's the question for you. Are you not making the move that is truly going to bring you more happiness. Now, initially, it may not, because you're going to have to deal with a few things,
Yeah.
right? You're going to have to move, right? If you're going to go outside that door, you're going to have to open the door, right? There's a door, there's a doorknob, there's something that's there that you're going to have to take action on. And so this message may be the very thing for you to start to create that momentum in your life that eventually will become ease because of the choices and the decisions to move that you made today. Today on this Monday, on the 26th of August, decide that this fall is going to be incredible. Decide that the end of this year is going to be life-changing for you, and that the decisions that you're going to make now are going to fly you into 2020, right? Not show up in 2020 for you now to decide on. See what I'm saying? And we
It's
know
like,
what that could be like as well, right? And so for all those who have chimed in today, thank you for your engagement. I think this is what we love so much about this, is that people getting involved, we can get real raw and real with everybody, and we can just speak and mastermind, because it creates something bigger of an entity. And for the hundreds of thousands of people that will see this on replay, continue to share that message, right? If you know someone right now that's struggling, right, in silent desperation, please send this to them and say, hey, listen, just listen to it. You know, you can either share it with me or not share it with me, how you feel, your feedback, whatever, but just listen to it. It may enlighten you, it may empower you, it may get you moving. I don't know. But this is the point of it, right? Share the message, continue to keep that rocking and rolling. We're gonna crush this shit this week, man. I feel it. I'm ready to rock and roll, man. I'm going, bro, and it's just taking a box of e-shots a day now, but that's okay. Right?
Get there.
Because you know what? I'm empowering my own business.
Yep.
So guys, let's rock and roll. Let's have a motivated Monday. Let's make moves, and make moves will happen. Will actually happen. All the results that you want, man. That's how it works. God bless y'all. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Same place, same time. 12 Eastern Standard Noon. Let's go.